everyone. It is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. All right. So today, I'm going to talk about, well, I don't know how I'm going to word it, but I'll just tell the story and then I'll get into it. So yesterday, well, for those of you who have been listening for a while, and you know that I no longer talk to my friend, or as I should probably say now, I had no longer. I had not talked to my friend in a very long time, and I think it's been 3 years, and and so I've been wanting to resolve something that I felt I did, that I thought contributed to us not talking anymore. And I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I just didn't do it. And so I actually sent a text message last week saying, hey, are you available to meet, at some point? And he said, sure, let's do Monday. Let's do Monday. I said, okay, great. So we were supposed to meet and have dinner. He didn't know why we were meeting. I knew why we were meeting. We just agreed to meet. But my goal was to, how should I say? My goal was to apologize for something that I did. And what that thing was that I did was I allowed him to believe something that wasn't true. And I felt this contributed to us not talking anymore. And I didn't feel that I did anything wrong in the beginning. I kind of did, but I didn't. Like, I guess I was in my feelings at the moment, so I didn't see anything wrong. But now that I know the things that I know, I can detect the smallest of things that are simply out of harmony with love. And so from my perspective, my opinion back then, I didn't do anything wrong. It was so small and insignificant. I didn't feel that, given the grand scheme of things and what was happening at the time, I didn't think I should apologize for anything. But as I've learned what the truth is from God's perspective, I now understand that any and every single thing that I do that is unloving, I have to pay for. Whether I pay for it through karma or I apologize, I have to admit it, I have to accept it, and I also have to let it go. And so before I met with him, I had it in my mind that I'm not going to have any expectations in terms of this meeting. Like, I'm not going to expect anything from this, meaning I'm not expecting a rekindle of our friendship. I'm not expecting an apology from him. I'm not expecting anything. I just need to apologize and clear up something that I did back then. And so, this really all goes back to when I started my hypnosis practice. And I was creating a logo, and I wanted his opinion. He was, my best friend. So I wanted his insight as to how he felt about it, And I was getting a lot of resistance from the beginning. And when I asked him, because there's some other things that I wanted to know, like, because he's a psychologist, I should probably put that in there. He's a psychologist, and he has his own clients, his little, private practice, if you will. And because he did this, because he had this experience with keeping track of clients and things like that, I wanted to know how he does it. Like, what system does he have in place? Because I didn't know anything about this, and I was just embarking upon this journey. So, there was a lot of resistance, and I didn't understand why I was getting resistance. I should just say I felt that. I felt resistance from him. I didn't feel like I was getting support. I felt like he didn't want to share anything with me. And that, I believe, is what contributed to me responding the way I did when he offered a service. So his partner is really good at design and graphic design and things like that. So he said, hey, maybe you should ask, so-and-so. And I was like, no, thank you. And the way that I said it was, it could be interpreted, and it was. I have to admit, it was in a condescending way. I did respond in that way. But I didn't mean it the condescending tone that I had wasn't towards his partner or his ability. It was towards my friend, because he was giving me so much resistance when I was trying to ask him for help, and he wasn't trying to help me. And so I had an expectation that he's supposed to help me because he's my best friend, as most people do. Most people believe that their best friend is supposed to help them when they are in need. And I had that expectation. I didn't know that then, but I know that now. So, I don't know, this is the smallest lane. This is crazy. I mean, I'm on it all the time, but it's so small. And this fool wants to be in everybody else's lane instead of his lane. So, anyway, that's kind of the, what had taken place. And so I felt that I needed to apologize for that. One, because I felt like I made it seem like I didn't want his partner's assistance. So it wasn't about his partner at all. But I felt that's how he took it, and that's the reason why we were no longer talking. And so I had to clear that up, because I didn't mean anything. I mean, I felt like I didn't mean how he interpreted it. And even though I know and I understand this completely 100%, I have these prices are going up. I have no control over how anyone perceives anything. But I have 100% control over how I convey it, my intent when I do it. And so when I did say, no thanks, it was dismissive. Absolutely it was. And I have to own that, which is what I tried to correct yesterday. So when we met, I went to his job, and we walked across the street to some Persian restaurant, some kind of restaurant, Mediterranean, I don't know what kind of restaurant. I need some gas, so I'm gonna pause this, and then I will be back in actually a split second. Okay, I'm back. I don't know where I left it, but anyway, we met, and I had to clear up, my part of it. And so I said, we ordered food and everything, and we sat, and I said, the reason why, I wanted to meet with you is because I needed to clear something up that I did a long time ago, which was the last conversation that we basically had like 3 years ago. And so as I said what I said, Anyway, as I began to tell him exactly what, my role, and I wanted to apologize for it because it wasn't true. I said, look, I allowed you to believe something that wasn't true. And he looked kind of puzzled because he wasn't sure what I was talking about. And so I said it, and he said, that really never crossed my mind. Like, he never thought that was an issue. Like, he said he would have never remembered it had I not brought it up. And it wasn't something that played a role in our lack of communication. And so I was like, okay, and I understood what he was saying, because he was saying it's no big deal. But it was a big deal. And then now I think I know what I'm going to title this video. So it was a big deal because I was holding myself in bondage. See, I didn't do it for him. I did it for myself. I cleared it up. My desire to clear it up was because I needed to release myself from it. And what I mean by that is, it has been on my mind all these years. 3 years, this has been on my mind. And even though it did not affect him in the way that I felt it could have, or it did, it was my perception. And the reason why it is my perception is because it was my doing. I did it. I was aware what I was doing. Even though he did not interpret it the way that I felt he did, or that was irrelevant to him. Like, it didn't even cross his mind, meaning he had no emotional injury from what I did, or what I allowed him to believe, or what I thought, I should say, what I thought I allowed him to believe. So there was nothing there. But I had to clear it up for myself, because I know I had done something that was unloving, and that was the most important thing. And so he started talking, and he said, to him, that wasn't the reason why he decided not to talk to me anymore. And so now I was curious, well, what was the reason? Because I didn't know. I thought I knew what the reason was based on my actions. And he said to me, he felt like he was angry. There was anger. There was a sense of jealousy. There was so much involved, and it had everything to do with me starting my hypnosis practice. It was that hypnosis practice that caused him to not want to talk to me anymore, because he felt some kind of way about it. And I knew this was part of it, but I did not want to believe that. Like, I knew, like, in my soul, I knew this was the reason. I think I mentioned it in my video before, but I just didn't want to believe it. I didn't, and that's the thing. I did not want to believe that my friend, or who I considered my friend at the time, I did not want to believe that he did not have my back. I did not want to believe that he would want me to fail or not be happy for any type of success that I have. I didn't want to believe that. And so therefore I didn't. I assumed, my perspective was, he's not talking to me because of my rejection of his partner's insight in terms of my company logo. And it had nothing to do with that. But that's what I chose. This is interesting because that is what I chose to believe. Because I did not want to accept that I had, or a friend of mine would not have my back. That's interesting because I didn't realize that. That didn't even cross my mind. But I'm glad that it did now, because now I can apply it to every situation in my past, in all situations in the future. The expectation that we have of people in our lives, because I didn't know I had that expectation. And I didn't want that to be a thing. So I never let it be a thing in my mind. So, he kept talking, and, he really had some strong feelings about it. And he just could not wrap his head around it. And I think I said before, when I told him, first of all, he didn't really understand what the hypnosis thing was. He just didn't. He thought that my thought process or beliefs were so far out there, he couldn't be in alignment with it. And so he felt like he didn't know me anymore because of the direction that I was going in. And I never saw it that way either. Obviously, because I was the one living the journey. So obviously I'm not going to see it from his perspective. I'm liking what I'm doing, which is why I'm pursuing it. So, we had, he kept talking, and then, that's what I was going to say. So, long ago when we were on the phone and we were having the conversation, the reason why I was asking him is how he keeps track of clients and the billing and things like that. Like, how do you keep track of how much you charge? Just stuff like that. Because I wanted to make sure that my books were okay. And he had asked me how much, I'm charging. And I told him. And his response was, how is that possible? He goes, I can't even charge my clients that much. And that's where it's like the straw broke the camel's back. That was it. And he said for a long time it's been building up, where he just had a lot of jealousy, resentment towards what I was doing. And again, like I said, I didn't want to believe that, but that's what was happening. That's exactly what was happening. And I felt it, but like I said, I didn't want to believe it. So that's when I really started getting the resistance from him. And so he was, saying all of this to me, and he didn't apologize or anything, and I wasn't looking for that. But what I do know is that what I realized is that I was holding myself in bondage, and the only reason why I needed to apologize or make things right, from my perspective, and when I say make things right, I don't mean you apologize because you're looking for an outcome. At that moment, and before I did it, it didn't matter to me whether we continued to talk or we didn't, or we continued to not talk, or we actually ended up talking again. that I didn't care. It didn't matter to me. I don't know about him. I know he's going through a lot right now. And it's his karma. It's his law of attraction. And I saw it, and there's no way I was going to really go into it, because that's not where he is. That's not where he is. So he felt I was judgmental about him and what he does, his profession. He stated that too. He goes, I thought you were very judgmental about what I do, and you were looking down upon what I do. Like, he's a psychologist. And at one point I wanted to be a psychologist, but then I decided I can't be a psychologist because I'm not really helping people. And that's my view on it. I'm not helping people by being a psychologist, because if you're a psychologist, you're bound by certain things. Like, there's certain things you can't do. Where am I going? I think I'm going here. There's a lot of red tape involved. There's so many restrictions. And doing what I do, I can talk to people about absolutely anything. Absolutely anything I can talk to someone. And be good with it. And I guess there is, I don't want to say a judgment, but I understand that I can't achieve what I want to achieve. And what I want to achieve is to be able to help people understand how they can heal themselves. There is no psychologist, there is no therapist, there is no psychiatrist who can heal a person. A person has to understand what's going on. Now, that's what a psychologist can do. That's if they understand the soul, if they understand why these things are even happening. Otherwise, you're just giving them coping tools. You're just helping them manage the pain. But who wants pain management? You want a cure for this, and the only way to do that is to release it from the soul. There's things that he's experiencing that we talked about, and he can't ever get over it. He's stuck in his anxiety. He's stuck in his frustration because he doesn't have, nor does he believe that it can be done. There's this belief that, it takes time. It takes time. But it can be done like that, in no time. But you have to understand and understand what's going on and have a belief that it's going to work. But, he's been a psychologist for decades. So whatever tools he feels he has, those are the only ones he's going to work with, because those are the only ones he knows. And those are the only ones he's been taught. You can't teach something you don't know. And you can't understand something that you haven't been willing to understand. That's just the truth of it. And so, we talked, and it was a good conversation. It was almost like, well, we didn't pick up where we left off. I can say that. I did not have that feeling. You know how sometimes, you don't talk to a friend for a long time, and you pick up where you left off, and you can not talk for years, but you start talking, and it's like you never stopped. That didn't happen. That did not happen. But it was good to be in his company. There was a familiarity that was there. But again, like I said, there wasn't any expectation to want to be friends again. Like, if we never talked again, I would be okay. And the reason why that is because I released my bondage. I released myself from him when I made things right, when I apologized for the thing that I did. Now there's nothing that ties us together other than our past memories. But we never had a falling out. And so this was the only thing that kept us apart, but yet kept us connected at the same time. And so I severed that. And like right now, it's different than how I felt before we met yesterday. Before we met yesterday, there was a connection there. And it was a weird connection. It was like we were connected, but we weren't communicating. That's a weird connection. Why would you want to be connected to someone and you're not communicating with one another? There's resistance there, but yet you're connected. It's like a bad relationship, really. It's like you're living in the same house. There's energy that's connecting you, but it's bad energy. And that's how it was with he and I. It was just bad energy that was connecting us. And so I severed that bad energy, and now the only energy that is present are the memories that we've created together over the 12 or 13 years that we've known each other. That's it. I think we've known each other 15 years, but we've only been communicating for, I think, 12. So, I thought that was interesting, and it was good that I experienced that, because there aren't any other situations in my life where I try to fix something like that. And it was so, to me, it was painless. Because all I wanted to do was speak the truth. That's it. Not my truth, but just speak the truth of what I did, regardless of it having any impact on him, because it seems that it didn't have any impact on him. The only impact that he was experiencing, because he said to me, I've thought about, contacting you and calling you, but he just couldn't do it. And he was like, when you don't talk for a while, it's like you get caught up in your life and you just don't do it, and it goes unchecked. And even his partner was like, how come you don't call Zach? How come you don't call Zach? And even his mom was, this is his law of attraction. So his partner's like, how come you just don't call Zach? How come you don't call him? How come you don't call him? So obviously there was something that was going on that he hasn't even shared with me that he was feeling, which would prompt his partner to say to him, call Zach. How come you just don't call him? And then his mom was asking about me, and she's suffering from some kind of memory loss thing, but somehow she remembers me. She remembers our time together. She remembers some things that I did for her, and so she's asked, how's Zach? How's Zach? And I think it's so cute because sometimes she says, how's Sam? Because her memory's slipping. But it doesn't matter what she's calling me. What she remembers what she remembers are the experiences that we have together, the feelings, the emotions that she experienced while we interacted. And that was the most important thing. And so, that put a smile on my face. But he was getting all these messages from the universe. How come you don't call Zach? How come you don't call Zach? Because the real reason why we weren't talking wasn't because of what I did. That wasn't the reason he decided not to talk to me. He had his own reason, his own judgments towards me and what I was doing and what I was about to achieve, or what I was achieving at the time. Because like I said, before I said in my previous videos, when we develop friendships in a certain space, in a certain energy. I was sitting in a certain energy, he was sitting in a certain energy. And so when you look at my past, when you look at his past, when I first met him, like I said before, I had just lost my job. I barely found a job. And how we met was I was looking for a room to rent. But this boy was living in Beverly Hills with this $1,800 a month for a room. That's how we met. That's exactly how we met, because we didn't discuss price or anything like that. It was just, room for rent, Beverly Hills. And back then, when I first moved to LA, who doesn't want to live in Beverly Hills? So, we met, we talked, and, when we discussed the details of the finances, I was like, whoa, that's just beyond what I can do right now. But we remained friends ever since. Like, we just did, he's a psychologist. I came from a mental health place, and so there were some things we had in common, and we just clicked. We just clicked automatically. Like I said, we've been friends ever since. So he met me when I was like at my most vulnerable, and him being a PhD, he being, in a better position, he actually picks friends. This is interesting because he picks friends who are broken. I don't think I've ever told him that, but I've met his friends and they're broken. They're broken, and I was broken as well. I was lost and broken and did not know that. But on some level, he realizes this, and anyone who does this is having an insecurity within themselves. And so you have to pick someone who is not as great as you, so that you feel good about yourself, because he has a slew of insecurities. But that's nothing that has to do with me. That's his own internal battles and things that he must deal with. Emotional injuries that just go back, all the way back. So, yeah, let me see. I think I should get out of this lane. So yeah, it was an interesting conversation, and he not only has, well, I don't want to say he hasn't changed, but he really hasn't changed since I've changed a great deal. I don't know, like, he's changed, but when I say change, like, basically, he has, his soul has darkened, I should say. And so his experiences, his karma has intensified. And he's experiencing a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and I mean, I'm not going to put the whole man's life out there, but he's just experiencing a great deal of pressure. And all pressure is due to what you're not releasing inside, meaning what you're holding on to, the judgments, all the irritation, all the frustration, the anxiety, all of that is coming from denying a whole bunch of things. And I actually use that word, when we were talking, you said, like, you're in denial. He's like, I'm not in denial. I know. I said, no, I know you know, but you're in denial emotionally. You don't want to accept some of the things that are happening in your life because you don't have any control over it, and you don't want to accept it. Just like I didn't want to accept the fact that he didn't want to support me as a friend. I did not want to accept that, even though I knew. I made it about something else that I did. Really. And it's not that I didn't do it, it's that he wasn't affected by it. He was so consumed by his judgment, his anger. He was so consumed by that, he couldn't detect anything else. He couldn't at the time. Even though I did something that was unloving, he couldn't even detect it at all. So I detected what I did, and I was also detecting what he was doing to me. Like at the time, but I ignored it. Like I said, I knew it was there, but I ignored it. I chose to. That was my choice. And because I didn't want to, you don't want to be angry. You just don't want to be angry. And I have some people on Facebook who have issues with their parents, and they've done something, and it's like you don't want to believe it. You don't want to believe that your mom or dad doesn't support you. Maybe you can look at the things. You can look at the events that took place and say, oh, that wasn't loving. But on an emotional level, you don't want to accept it. On a soul level, you don't want to accept it. And we have to accept it. We have to accept it. We really do. And so we have to. And so because of that, even though I did what I did, it's not like I didn't do anything, but it's like you take all the blame. That's what I did. Is I felt like I was taking all the blame. Even though there's no blame, but I was trying to put it all on me, saying I was the reason why. My actions are the reason why we no longer spoke to one another. That's what I did in my mind. I tricked myself into believing that because I didn't want to accept the truth. Not to say that I didn't do anything, but it wasn't even a consideration. And we do this all the time. Because our parents teach us how to accept things that they did, but accept it as if it's our fault. It's always our fault. You see what you did? You see what you made me do? This all conditions us to take on things that really aren't ours to take on. So I had to clear that up, and I released it, and now there's nothing connected in terms of that. Now at some point, I do have to forgive myself for doing that. I have not done that. I haven't forgiven myself for holding myself in contempt, and I do have to do that at some point. I have to release that because that's the bondage I was keeping myself in, and I have to apologize for that to myself. I have to say I'm sorry, and that's an emotional release. That's an emotional release. And the thing is, it happened over the course of 3 years. I was holding myself in contempt for 3 years. Now I'm no longer holding myself in contempt, so that doesn't mean that it's completely done. I have to be sorry for what I did to myself. If that makes any sense, you have to forgive yourself for the pain that you inflict upon yourself. You have to. You just have to let that go. And that's something else that we tend to believe. When people say, "Oh, I've forgiven them," I don't judge them anymore. I don't hold any contempt for them anymore. I don't hate them anymore. I'm not angry at them anymore. You may have stopped the anger. You may have stopped the hatred. You may have stopped the condemnation. You may have stopped those things, but that only stops it from moving forward. But that doesn't mean you've released the pain from the past, from the moment before you have forgiven them. And the thing is, if you haven't released the past, you have to release the past. And people think, oh, just because I don't hate anybody anymore, because we can choose to not hate someone, but that does not mean that we have released it from ourselves. And so the whole 3 years that we weren't talking, I held myself in contempt because of the things that I've done. And so I have to forgive myself for that. I've already cleared it up with him, and it was something that wasn't even an issue with him, but I apologize anyway because I did it for myself. That's the only reason why I did it. But now I have to forgive myself. I have to forgive myself. That's imperative, because if not, other things are going to continue to happen because it's still within my soul, and that means that the universe has to respond to it. And the universe responds to those things within your soul. And so it's my responsibility to let it go. To forgive myself for it, excuse me. So anyway, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. And hopefully this helps someone to understand, because I know there are people out there who have relationship problems, friendship problems, problems with their spouse or partner, whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, and you hold yourself in bondage, not understanding that you're doing it. So whatever you feel you've done, apologize. But you have to feel it. Don't just do it just to do it. Do it for yourself. Do it because you don't want to hold that kind of energy within your being anymore. That's how you love yourself. You do it because you don't want to hold that within you. That's the only reason why I did it. I didn't do it for him. I did it because I realized I did it for him too, but let me explain how that works. I did it for myself because I knew that I was holding myself in bondage, meaning I knew I was creating discord within myself based on the actions that I had taken. Whether they affected him or not, they were out of harmony with love, and I had to fix that. That's how I was affecting myself, and I wasn't loving myself. And because of that, I wasn't loving him, which means I had to fix whatever potential problem existed due to what I did. I had to fix both ends. I had to love myself, and I had to love my friend at the same time. I just say, hey, look, Zach, you don't want this in you. Apologize, make it right. Just make it right. And then with him, letting him know if it did affect him, I was clearing that up as well. So, this is what I mean by self-love. Love yourself first, and everything else just works out. Love yourself first. If you believe, if you have any feeling that you could have, and that's the thing, it doesn't have anything to do with other people. It's all about you. Like, this whole thing was all about me. All this stuff was swirling within my being. It wasn't even swirling within his. The only thing that was swirling within his was the judgment that he had towards me and what I was doing with my life. And that didn't have anything to do with me. That was all him. So the discord within myself was created by me, and the discord within him was created by him. Like, we didn't affect each other. It was all our own doing. That's why I say it has nothing to do with anybody else. It has everything to do with you and you alone. You are your own devil. You are your own angel. You are all it. You were it. That's why, the video that I made about the Antichrist. There is no Antichrist other than yourself. You are the person who prevents you from experiencing something. You are the one who condemns yourself. Like, nobody else can condemn you. People can say things, but it's up to you to accept that condemnation if that's what it is you want to accept. Like, someone can say, hey, you know what, you're a effing asshole. Someone can say that to me. And I have a choice to either accept it into my soul as truth, which is not true, but accept it as it being true, a true statement, or reject it because I know that's not who I am or what I am. It's all me. It's always me. And it's all you, and it will always be you. You either accept or reject. That's it. You're either accepting or rejecting. All things in life you're accepting or rejecting. If you feel that you can't do something, then that's you convincing yourself that you're not good enough. Nobody has that power to tell you that you are good enough. So if someone says you're not good enough and you accept it, that's you accepting that for yourself. If someone says you're good enough and you accept that, then you accept it for yourself. But it's always someone else's view, someone's opinion, someone else's thought that we accept as truth. And the thing is, we decide if we want to do that every day. And depending on what's within your soul, that will determine whether you accept it or reject it. Someone can call me stupid and dumb right now, and that's not gonna fly. That is not gonna fly. I don't care what anybody calls me, it's not going to fly. Because if you've been listening to my videos, and you understand that I do not feel that I'm stupid, I do not feel that I'm dumb at all. I'm a very capable person, more capable than many, and I have to learn how to give myself more credit. But I'm not at a point where I'm going to accept someone's degraded words. That's their words, that's their view, and I understand that their view is based on their soul. So I can't accept the contents of their soul, because my soul is not their soul. My soul is not in the same state. And my soul's in a state now where I won't accept someone else's rejection. I understand that someone may not accept me, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean I accept the rejection. I just accept that they're not willing to accept me. But that is not accepting rejection. And there's a huge difference. A huge difference. I'm not going to walk around or walk away with my head down kicking rocks. That is not going to happen. If I want to do something, if I feel that I have something to contribute and someone doesn't want that contribution, then I take my contribution somewhere else. I don't just accept defeat. I don't accept the rejection. And nobody should. But in the state that we're in, the state of the world, people do it every day. Every day. There's no reason, because, and here's the thing, the reason why that's not happening with me is because I know the truth. I know the truth of how the souls operate. I know the truth of how we take on other people's energy. I know the reason why we take on other people's thoughts, other people's feelings, other people's opinion. I understand how that works. And because I understand how it works, I understand how not to let it happen. And I also understand why I should not let that happen. That's pretty big, because that means I have total control over my life. Total control. All the things that he said when he was talking, when we were recapping, I guess, about how he felt towards me, the jealousy and the judgment and the envy, like, really think about it. This man went to school for what is it, 8 years to get a PhD? Maybe longer, I don't know. 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah, about 8 years to get a PhD, and the amount of money that one has to go into debt in order to get it. And here I take a course, for what, 3 months, I think, if that, and I can charge $300, $400, $500 a session, and that really blew his mind. And so he had a problem with that, because it's like, how can you work so little, put so little effort in something, and make so much? And that's the thing. Like, I've talked about, my house. How can I put in absolutely nothing, put in the bare minimum? All I had to do to buy a house was to sign some papers, put some papers in order, and that's it. Because that's the minimum requirement to get a house. They want check stubs and bank statements and this and that and the other, and that's all I had to do was push some papers around, scan them, send them, and that's it. That's what I had to do. Minimal effort. There was I even wrote a check and they didn't even cash it. I think it's called earnest money. I wrote the check. You're supposed to write a check. I wrote it. I was willing to do it, and the universe said, you don't even need it. That's not what we have in plan for you, Zachary. We are literally giving you a house. That's what we're doing. That's what we are doing. And, I rent rooms out of my house. That's why I don't pay a mortgage. So I have a 4-bedroom house, and I rent all 3 of the rooms out. And so it covers the mortgage, and I make a profit off of it at the same time. But the reason why The reason why this has been so easy and effortless for me is because of the reason why I rent rooms out. There's an intent that I have within my soul when I do this. It's not, oh my God, I can't pay my bills, I can't pay it. No. I rent rooms out because I know that there are people out there who are not able to have an apartment of their own because their life situation or their soul dictates that they cannot have a place of their own. And so I rent my rooms out at a reduced rate. Not when I say reduced rate, I mean an apartment here in Los Angeles for a one bedroom is about $1,800 for a regular single apartment, and that's a lot of money. So I cut that in half, because they can't afford the whole thing. So I cut it in half, because I know there's people out there who can't afford. There's some nice people who cannot afford that, and I understand that their soul doesn't dictate that they're homeless, but their soul dictates that they can't have a place of their own. And so I'm a cooperative component to their soul condition. That's why I do this. And back in the day before I even had this house, I would allow homeless people to come in and shower. Like, I met people who were sleeping in their cars, and I didn't house them forever, but I said, hey, I'll cook you a meal, I'll let you wash your clothes, because I had a washer and dryer in my apartment. So wash your clothes, take a hot shower, get cleaned up and relax for a bit, and then in the morning, when I leave, you leave. That's really that simple, and I did that. And I didn't do it because I felt sorry for them. I did it because if I were in that space, I would want to at least be clean. And so I met the people who wanted to be clean, who wanted to do something for themselves, even though they were living in the car. Like, I wasn't trying to not make them homeless anymore. That's not that wasn't my goal. They still had to be homeless. They still had to experience that. But there was a component of that I could be a part of without taking their suffering away. Because that's the suffering they had to figure out why they're sleeping in their car. I didn't have the insight that I have now, so I couldn't do what I can do today, which is explain why they're experiencing what they're experiencing so that they can change their life if they so choose to do so. I didn't have that kind of insight there. So the only thing I could offer at the time was, a hot meal, some shelter for a night, and a hot shower, some laundry, some free laundry. That's it. That's the extent that I was able to offer. But anyway, how did I get on that? It was the intent. So everything is about the intent. Everything is about your soul. Yeah. Anyway, let me stop this video. So, I hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday, and maybe you'll be able to look at your friendships, some of the relationships that you have, whether they are with your family or with, friends, spouses, partners, whatever. Do it for yourself. Do it because you don't want to have the discord within you. Just whatever you felt you did, even if you were a child and you hated mom or dad for how they treated you, apologize for the hatred. There was this one particular person, I keep saying I'm going to end this video, but anyway, there was this one particular person who shared with me the other day that she used to hear these spirits, these voices, tell her that she wasn't from here. And she would ask, well, where am I from? And they would not answer her. And so these spirits were, who were trying to who were communicating with her, were trying to, how should I say? So these people who call themselves starseeds, right? They're from a different place, and starseeds have the same story. The same common thread runs through every single starseed. They're experiencing this pain for a reason. And it's not because of them. It's because they're a starseed, and so you're not from here. And so it's almost like when you say you're not from here, it's almost like, oh, I'm not meant to really experience this. This isn't the norm. It's not because of me. And it allows you to disconnect from experiencing the trauma that you're experiencing. So this particular person had a very traumatic childhood where there was a lot of crying, a lot of abuse. And so these voices were telling her, you're not from here, you're not from here. And that gives a relief because it allows you to disconnect. Like, oh, I'm not from here, I'm not attached to this pain. And that's what the spirits were trying to do. And as they were telling her that lie, and she, as a child, said, oh, well, if I'm not from here, where am I from? And they would not answer her. And the reason why they didn't answer her, the reason why they couldn't answer is because she is from here. She is from here. All human souls are from here. But you have these people who claim to be starseeds who believe they're not from here. But she is from here. And that's why they wouldn't answer her. And they would go silent on her. They would go silent on her. And this is what, people do this on Earth. They tell lies because they want to try to protect you from something. Parents do this all the time. They'll tell you a lie, and when you question that lie or that decision that they or the reason they gave you or whatever, you question it, and the answer means that their lie has to be exposed. They'll either go silent, they'll distract you, or they'll get angry. One or the other. And this is what these spirits were doing to her. They were misleading her, but in a way trying to protect her. And they didn't want to, it's almost like they didn't want to purposely lie, but they were purposely lying. Like they didn't want to own the lie, but they were willing to lie to her. And when she asked, where am I from? They didn't want to answer her. At all. And so there's this disconnect that is present. God, how did I get on that thing? Because there was a point. I knew it was the voices. Hold on, I'm gonna pause it real quick. Okay, now I remember what it was. I had to go back and listen to the end of my video. So the point I was making is that she would apologize to the spirits for being angry at them because she was frustrated at the fact that they would not answer her question. And so she was angry and at the spirits for not recognizing her question, and so she apologized for being angry. And she had every right to be angry, but at the same time, she also had to apologize. Because all anger that we express towards another needs to stop. Because all anger that we project towards someone, we are also projecting at ourselves. We have to understand that whatever we are projecting is swirling around within us. So if you can project it, it's swirling around within you. And so she was angry. Now, this was a true emotion of anger, not pretending to be angry to control someone or pretending to be loving to control someone. They almost hit somebody. So she apologized, and so she needed to apologize because she got angry, but in a way, from man's perspective, she had every right to be angry because someone was feeding her bad information, and when she questioned it, they didn't answer the question. So, from man's perspective, yeah, you have a right to be angry at someone who does that, but from God's perspective, you don't. But you also don't apologize for something that you didn't do. So, if someone says, "Hey, you're doing this to me and you're not doing anything," there's no reason to apologize. But in her case, she had to apologize because she was projecting anger. But we have to understand that the anger didn't come from, it's like she felt guilty for being angry, which we should all feel guilty for being angry, because we're not supposed to project anger. That's something that you want to get away from when you're trying to develop your soul and be more loving, or I should say develop your soul into a state of being more loving. So, so yeah. Anyway, when she apologized, I guess you have to understand why or when to apologize and when not to. So the time you don't apologize is when someone's telling you that you're doing something wrong when you're not doing something wrong. You never apologize for that. You never apologize for crying. You never apologize for having the emotion. Never apologize for being emotional. But if you're projecting an emotion that is of anger or rage and judgment, that you have to apologize for. But you don't apologize for having the emotion. This is why it's important to experience your emotions, but don't project them. It's okay to be angry, but don't project the anger. People do some stupid stuff. You see this crazy? I mean, really. People are so hasty. They just want to make such just quick decisions and not looking at the consequences. Like, you know, screw their car, screw the other person's car, screw their life, screw the other person's life. Like, wow. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, now I can end this video because I just need to end this video. So, have a wonderful Tuesday, everybody. Check your T-Mobile Tuesday if I upload this video in time. Hopefully I can just send that energy out there and you get it. Like the new age people do. I'm sending you good vibes. I'm sending you good vibes. Anyway, take care. Talk to you later. Bye now.